Hey guys, today I wanted to talk a little bit about something that came up in a Facebook group that I'm in. Somebody asked a really good question and I answered the really good question, but I feel like I could elaborate a little bit better and explain myself a little bit more. The question was about exposing for the sky when you shoot. So let's say you're at a shoot and there's a beautiful sunset. It's a lot of times, if it's still kind of bright outside, you expose correctly for your subject, but you lose the sky in the photos. A lot of people say to underexpose and then you can bring things back, but then people complain that there's too much grain in their photos when they underexpose. Some other people's ideas of getting this correct would be using some kind of external flash to light your subject appropriately, and then the fall off allows you to expose correctly essentially for the sky, and then you're lighting your subject with extra light. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think it does look very artificial. I do think there is a balance that can be done in camera. We all know that what you are looking at when you're looking at a sunset and a subject, your camera cannot always pick up the same things in the same ways that your eyes can. I kind of expose for the sky. I do tend to fall into the underexposing category. The things people talk about with grain and underexposing, like maybe if it's super underexposed, but it's just not, it's not something that I have ever really run into. Nothing that's so bad a little bit of noise reduction wouldn't fix. It's really not a big deal. I did shoot a session last night and the sky was beautiful. I've posted a couple photos in this thread that I'm talking about and everybody loved them. So I do want to edit one and kind of walk you through what I do to kind of save this photo from the underexposedness to keep the sky. The last time I tried to do a screen recording, it did not go very well, so fingers crossed this one works out. Here we go. Alright, this is the photo that I've chosen to edit. I kind of went through them. I wanted something with a lot of sky. Just because that's obviously what we're working on, is a lot of sky. This was kind of towards the end of our session. I shot this on a Canon 6D with a Tamron 35mm 1.4, and my settings are up here actually. It was ISO 100, f1.8, and 1/500 for the shutter speed. The first thing that I want to mention is, to a lot of people this photo would seem underexposed. It is absolutely correct. Her face and everything is not exposed correctly, but I'm kind of meeting in the middle. Like, she's not completely blacked out and the sky is a little brighter than it probably was at the time, but I'm kind of meeting both of them in the middle and finding a middle ground. So first thing I'm going to do is straighten the photo. Okay, so there we are. I am going to up the exposure just a hair, just because I want to start being able to see a little bit more of what's in the photo. And then as far as presets go, I do use some that I've made and kind of customized for myself over the years, but for this tutorial I am going to use the SMAL presets, which I love, and SMAL 1 is everybody's favorite, so I'll go ahead and use that one. And see, just like that, we are already, look at how beautiful the sky looks. The SMAL presets do have grain, so I am going to remove the grain. I have no problem with grain, I just don't always want it. And this photo is, as far as her, it does look a little blue to me. I usually tend to shoot around 7,000 Kelvin. So I'm going to put it up to at least that, and I think we can go, I'll go about 7,300. Seems to be about right for that. Okay, so we're looking good. This actually, for some people, could be a completed photo. It's moody, it's nice and kind of balanced. You can see what's going on here. It's just not enough for me. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I really want to work on lightening her up, especially her face and this hand right here. So we are going to go over here to the adjustment brush, and I am going to lightly, with a smaller brush, brush over her kind of face and hair. I don't want too much, maybe around the front of her as well where she's shadowed, but I really don't want, I'm not going to do anything super dramatic. See, I'm just going to kind of pull that and lighten her up. See, let's see if you can see the difference. See, you can see right there, see the difference? It just kind of made her pop a little bit. It wasn't anything super dramatic. I'm going to pull it down there also. There we go. I actually really like that. Okay, so that is where we are at for that. And then now, so I think she's exposed a lot better. I'm definitely still not done, but I think she's exposed better. I think the sky is beautiful, but we are going to work on the sky just a little bit more. So we are going to take the graduated filter and we are going to select most of the sky. And we are going to play, I like to play with contrast. I like to, not necessarily a lot of exposure, but that I love to play with colors. I like adding purples and like warming up the sky, like, hello, that looks amazing. All right, so we are looking pretty. I also like to add clarity to the sky, just a hair, like don't get crazy. All right. I mean, it looks pretty good. So the next thing that I would do from here, I am very happy with the way this looks in Lightroom. I will take it over to Photoshop. I put everything through Lightroom and then into Photoshop. It's weird. Some people don't understand it, but I was a Photoshop master way before I had anything to do with Lightroom, so I'm comfortable in there, and I always, always, always finish my photos off in Photoshop. So let's go do that. Okay, I have pulled this into Photoshop now, and my user face situation here looks a little strange, but the last time I tried to screen record in Photoshop, anything that popped up would not record, so you guys couldn't even really see what I was doing. So now I have all these little things locked in over here, and hopefully that will help. So the first thing that I do in Photoshop usually is a levels. I level out my photos. I don't know why I don't do this in Lightroom. I just, like I said, am very comfortable in here. So I always make sure my histogram looks good, so the whites are good, and I usually bring the blacks. It kind of just adds contrast and adds the pop back to the photos. So that's done. And the next thing that I'm going to use is I have all these lovely little I guess they're actions in Photoshop, but they're equivalent to presets in Lightroom. And there's one that I love. It's called Bitch Please. I made it a really long time ago, but I love what it does to shadows. It kind of adds like a warm magenta-y hue to shadows. So I run that next. All right, and then of course it looks a little crazy because it's on 100%. That is one thing I love about actions in Photoshop as opposed to presets in Lightroom. If it looks crazy, you can turn it down. So here we are. I usually use this one between about 25 and 30. You can see it just, all it did was just this very light, whoops, this very light little like pop of color. Like very subtle, but I don't like when I don't do it. So all right, now that I have that done, I'm going to break all the rules of Photoshop, and the point of the layers is to leave them all open, but I don't like doing that. Once I like something and I like how it is, I want to lock it in, so I flatten the image and I get rid of all of those layers because they give me anxiety. The next thing that I'm going to do is I want to work on her just a little bit. I want to run portraiture. You don't need this, it just kind of smooths skin, and I actually use it to brighten people up also. That is kind of good. And it looks a little crazy right here. I never use it on high power. But when I do, it comes up as a background layer. And then I paint it on. Okay, so then I will add a mask. I will invert the mask and then I will paint back with white. If you need help with Photoshop, I know I'm kind of blowing through this quickly, but there are tons of tutorials and maybe I'll do some more in the future. I kind of just want to show you real quick how I edit the photo, but if you have any questions about any of these tools, you can totally leave them in the comments. So now that I have that inverted, I'm going to use white to paint over the black mask to bring this out. So what's happening is she looks a little crazy here, but we are going to lower it. Don't you worry. I'm not going to leave this at like full strength. Okay, so see, she looks a little brighter than she should be. So I go back in here and I pull it down. That's good. About 75%. All right, so the next thing that we are going to do is flatten it. We are going to flatten the image because I like how it is and I want to keep it there. Another thing I like to do for this guy is putting a black layer over it and then changing the blend mode. So I am going to paint with black at a lower opacity, of course, not anything crazy. Paint with black. I painted with black over this because we are just going to kind of add some contrast. So then now that layer has black on it, it looks a little crazy, but we go into our blend modes and soft light is my blend mode of choice usually for this. So see how we have darkened the sky. That's actually my favorite thing to do when you want to add contrast is just paint over it with black and put it in soft light. It's a little dramatic for me, so we are going to turn it down just a little bit. But as you can see, it still kind of gives that pop. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to flatten the image. At this point, I am going to take a curves layer just to kind of, again, I want to pick up some colors and pull some other colors down. So I love this little tool right here, this little guy with the arrows. It works the same as the HSL sliders in Lightroom. You place it where you want it and then you pull up or down. So if you want it to be brighter like this, we want to make her brighter, we'd pull it up. If we wanted to make her darker, we would pull it down. So we want to make her a little brighter just in that color tone. See? There's the difference. It just brightened things up. It's great. All right, and it's looking great. The final thing that I would probably do to this image would be to add a little flare, if you will. I really like flares. Some people don't. You definitely have to do them correctly, but since our sun is coming from right here, that's like a great place to throw them. I like this little diamond tool. So we're going to do that in like a nice, pretty, warm, sunny color, and then we are going to put it on screen. It looks crazy, but guess what? It's Photoshop, so you can turn it down. What? Okay, and then we have to create a mask. Would not be hitting her on this side of her body, so we are going to paint it off. It would still be hitting her hair kind of and a little bit on her on the front, but for the most part it would not be hitting her. It would not be hitting her anywhere over here that is like shaded from her body. So we're gonna do that. All right, so it doesn't do a whole lot, but it just kind of like adds depth, I guess. It adds subtly. This can absolutely be done wrong, but to me, it's just very subtle. Another thing that I like to do with this guy is play with colors. Okay, it's giving off kind of a magenta hue already to it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a layer and I'm going to paint over this guy in purple. I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. What's she doing? I don't want to mess too much with what's down here because it's a little more orange, but let's see. And then we are going to put it on soft light again. See how pretty. We just made them pretty sunset colors. And then of course, turn it down. So we went from gray skies to purple skies. Very epic, very pretty. We can do this again with like the pretty orange color if you want to put that back. Just select the, let's select a pretty orange color. All right, and then we're going to paint. Oops. We're going to paint down here with it, and then we'll paint a little bit into the purple. And once again on soft light. And then we're going to turn it down because that's crazy. All right, see, so we went from just okay sky to we added some purple, and then we added some orange. And then you can still kind of go in, and once you've lowered the opacity, go in and kind of touch things up. But I think it looks pretty rad. I think it looks pretty great. So that's about it. That's what I would do to this photo. I would just kind of sharpen and save it from here. All right, I hope that you halfway got something out of that. I kind of don't really think when I edit, so having to kind of talk you through it is a little bit weird for me still, but I hope I answered some questions about how you can, keep the sky in your photos. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you get notifications when I post new videos. I do post new videos every Wednesday, and usually at least one other day in the week, but always for sure on Wednesdays. Bye!